starting. Let's see. All right, I guess we could start it. Yeah.
We were also saying that our numbers are kind of dwindling from the very first week. So if you make it to week 6, like, you are amazing. It's,
Yeah.
And we might even finish early tonight because we even had some time last week too.
Yep.
So is it Lisa that needs to get to bed, or she's staying up? Yes. Okay. All right. So welcome back. Last week you were in groups of 3 or 2, depending on however it worked out for you, and you had the opportunity to coach each other and be an observer. So we kind of want to hear, after a week of maybe reflecting on that, what are some things that are running through your head right now? What did you like about that? What did you realize, hey, I need to work on this? Or what are some things that you were like, ooh, that's a good point. A great takeaway or aha from that. So anyone have any of those to share?
I think for me, my biggest kind of like aha, like as I was talking to her, it was kind of like nice to be able to like put her, like, as I asked her those questions, like finding that spark into what like make her think about those things, which made her refocus on what her goal was. So I really liked that part, and I was kind of like, oh, okay, well, when you put more of the focus on asking those questions and making them think in that coaching manner, it's just kind of finding that passion again. And that was kind of nice to be able to see, putting that back on them instead of, automatically giving advice when they're kind of hitting a stopping point, but to kind of make them think and have them ask us for advice instead of like just openly giving it. So I really like, I think that's been my favorite thing about all of this coaching, like the whole training, is just seeing the passion, like as I am doing these practices and then actually applying it with my team, watching the light bulbs go off in their head and like, oh, like I can do this, and this is why I'm doing this. So it's been nice to see that on my end.
Yeah, coaching is very empowering to others, empowering to the coachee, right? Because you're not really enabling them. Like sometimes, I don't know, in mentoring and teaching, it's not enabling, like you're using that teaching moment, but when you're coaching them, they're really getting that self-confidence and like, oh, I do know how to do this. I can do this. So it's just strengthening even their weaknesses sometimes, and bring them out and saying, hey, you know the answers. It's just leading them in a direction too. So love that. Anyone else have anything to share?
Don't make us call you out.
Did anyone do any coaching this week? Like, tell us about it. How did it go? How is it different than it has been in the past?
I coached the girl I coached last week. We had a follow-up coaching call today, and I found myself at times when I thought I wanted to like lead or inspire or mentor, I'd stop myself and say, hold on. And I'd find myself rephrasing it. So I was questioning her to make her think versus me. So I kept catching myself, but I didn't pull my notes out. I was able to do it without my notes, just by what we've talked about and we've studied. But it made me a lot more aware of, okay, I need to ask, not probe, and not suggest. And she, again, was able to come up with ideas and walk away with actions to come back and talk next week.
Very good. And Lisa said it felt much more natural this week too. So
yes,
yeah. I think, it takes practice, right? It takes, the more you do it, the more comfortable you get. We received a kind of cool sheet that we'll be sharing. Are we going to share it after next week, or are we going to share it after this week, Hannah? The one that, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, next week, I think.
Yeah, so it has a ton more questions that you can ask, and it was really helpful, I thought. Lisa also said, I had an aha moment. I thought this one was going to be really hard, as the lady had been quite negative, so I wasn't sure how it would go, but actually she got into the flow and then was answering questions and became more confident. And Joe says more confident in taking a coaching approach more often. Very good. So you guys are seeing progress. That's fantastic. So on week 1 of our workshop, we talked about the components of coaching, which includes identifying areas for improvement and goal setting. Let me get my slides up. I thought I had them up and I don't know where they went. So hold on. One moment, please. Sorry, I'm shorting you your slides. That's better. Hey, we already did this one. Okay. It's important that you help your coachee establish a goal that they're working towards and then come up with a few action items that they'll be working on between then and your next coaching session. The most important thing to remember is to allow your coachee to come up with their own action items. Okay. So why do you think that's important? Why do we need them to come up with their own action items? Share your ideas either unmute or in the chat.
They're going to be less likely to do a goal that we set for them versus a goal that they set for themselves, because we may set a goal for them that they think is unrealistic, but when it's their idea, they're more amped to accomplish that goal because they've set it for themselves, knowing that they can do it.
Yep, they are taking ownership. Absolutely. They'll feel more confident if they accomplish it themselves. It helps them to see what, I'm reading the chat, what they actually have the power to do. Yep, you guys are hitting it right on the head. More buy-in, more likely to follow through. They're going to feel empowered, and it will increase their self-confidence. Oh, let me go back to that one. Remember, coaching does assume, though, that the person you're coaching already has the answers, right? So we've talked about that every single week. There are times when you need to mentor, train, where coaching isn't appropriate. But making that assumption that they already have the answers, it's your job to guide them to realize this. So when they create their own plans for moving forward, they're going to feel empowered and confident. Their confidence is going to naturally grow. So resist the urge as much as possible to just tell them what to do. And you guys are getting better at that. It is work in progress always on that. Okay. But resist the urge as much as possible to not tell them what to do. I promise it will be worth the extra effort on your end. So action planning falls during the CH part of the coach model. Let me show you that. Remember our coach model? C is the current situation, O is objectives, A is alternatives, and CH is that choices. So the action planning falls during the CH part. This is where your coachee decides what the alternatives from the A, step up above, part of the model they're going to pursue. So, remember and what else? And what else? Tell me more. What else could you do? That's where they're going to come up with those alternatives. And now we're to the CH. And so they're actually going to come up with their plan. And they will make their choices and create SMART action items. You guys have heard SMART goals, SMART over and over and over, as long as you've been with Scentsy, probably in many other aspects of your lives. SMART goals are super important. So what are some questions you can use during this part of the coaching session to get them to commit to taking action? So they've given you the alternatives. And then what questions might you ask them next?
Lay down. Lay down.
Hold on. There.
I'm sorry.
You can oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Hey.
Hold on, the dog.
Anyone else? Maybe the dog wanted to answer. Okay, let me ask it again. What are some questions you can use during the CH part that will help them to commit to taking action? Anyone want to share?
So we have in the chat, what is something you could do differently this week to help you with marketing your business or
Yep.
getting PRV or booking? So that would be depending on, you know, like what they chose as their alternative. How will you know you have achieved this? What will be the consequences if you don't do anything differently? When can we follow up on this? All good questions.
Fantastic. Anyone else have anything else? So some suggestions would be, what are you most excited to try? What will your next step be? You guys hit it on the head with these things. How can you make that happen? Which of the ideas we talked about will you try? Your questions were all alluding to that, right? And then the rest of your questions that you guys put in the chat were the next step after that. You know, when can we follow up? How confident are you? All of that kind of stuff. That all is part of the same process. So what are you most excited to try? So you're trying to actually at this point prod them to narrow down those alternatives and come up with a couple that they're going to do. So, all right. So let's talk about SMART action plans. Once you get them to commit to action steps, you need to make sure that they put it into a SMART format. Is there anyone, comment in the chat, is there anyone who hasn't seen this before? SMART goals or SMART action steps. SMART means specific, measurable, actionable, relevant, and time bound. Okay. So, and SMART is important. These each stand for something really important. This step is going to be critical so that they have something specific to work on and you have something to follow up with them on. Okay. This will also give you the time frame for when you're going to need to follow up. So based on what their action items are, you're going to know, oh, yeah, this is a 1 month follow up, or I'd better check in, you know, we better do this again next Tuesday because they said they were going to do all of these things over the weekend. So what are some questions you can ask to make sure their action items are SMART? Do you guys have any ideas? How do you know if it's SMART?
Maybe if they are saying they're having a hard time recruiting, they're not recruiting enough, I could say, well, what does enough look like for you?
Yeah.
Something like that, because for me, it's hard sometimes to figure out what they need because, well, my aha moment was I don't reach out to them nearly enough. So that being more specific would help me really get to know what it is they mean by that.
Yeah, because, you know, and I need to recruit more, or I need to follow up more, or I don't recruit enough. That's not measurable, right? What's enough?
Right.
It's not specific. So what are some other questions that you could ask? Anyone else?
You could ask, when would you like to achieve that by? That
Yep.
gives a specific time frame.
Yep. Yep. What's your deadline to have that happen? When will you start? Anyone else have any? SMART. Are you guys all tired tonight? I'm tired. Hannah, are you tired?
You could ask, what's something that you'd be willing to start today that you could get started on to help you towards this goal?
Definitely, definitely. What could you get started on today to help you towards this goal? Yep. Also, what's your deadline for completing this? And how will you know if you've been successful? Often when I'm coaching, they will say, I want more PRV, or I need to work with my frontline more. Okay, well, how do you know if you've been successful? Is more a penny more? Is more like, you know, what are we really talking about? I need to be more engaged. Okay, well, how do you know if you're more engaged? What do you think that means? You know, so these are some questions. Let's look at some examples of action items, and I'm going to try and not butcher this on the PowerPoint. And I want you to tell me in the chat if these are smart or not. For the ones that are no's, I want you to make it smart. What could you do to make it smart? So here's the first one. I will have one-on-ones with my leaders. Is that smart? Put into the chat and let me know. No, yes, no. No, no, no time frame. Okay, maybe not. Don't change your answer, Barb, just because someone else. It's no peer pressure. So I will have one-on-ones with my leaders. No, it's not smart. It's not a SMART goal because, you know, I will have one-on-ones once a week with 7 leaders until October 1st. That would be a SMART goal. But I will have one-on-ones with my leaders is too vague, right? There's no time stamp on it. It's not measurable, you know, for when you're going to start, when you're going to finish, how often will you have them, how many leaders will you have them with, what defines a leader? So next, same thing, answer it in the chat. I will have 5 recruiting conversations each week for 8 weeks, starting July 1st, 2020. Yes, very good. Yes, that is a SMART. Next one. I will work with my new director to maintain her title for the rest of the year. What does half mean?
Right.
Yes, half-seas. You guys, that's adorable. No, it's actually not SMART. How are you going to work with them? What does that mean? So you have part of it, right, for the rest of the year, but how often are you going to work with them? How are you going to work with them? You know, I'm going to Zoom with them once a week. I'm going to do coaching calls once a month. You know, that kind of thing. Anything else that would make it SMART? How do you plan to work on helping them? Yes, exactly, Lord. All right. I will consistently hold a team meeting on Zoom every Tuesday at 7 p.m. beginning July 14th, 2020. Yes. Yep, that one is SMART. See the detail in that? It's specific, what you're gonna do. It's measurable. You can tell if you're successful with that or not, right? Like when you don't do it 2 weeks in a row, it's actionable, relevant, and it's time bound. How about another? I will get consistent with post. This is how I feel. I will get consistent with posting in my Facebook group. No, nope. Yep, you're right, you guys. No. What could you do to make it a SMART action plan? Erase it and start again. Yes, you're right. Yep. How often? Posting what? How? When? Yep, you're right. I will consistently post 4 times a day starting Monday for the next 8 weeks in my Facebook group. Yep. No, what can you do to consistently post? What are you going to post about? Very good. Very, very good, you guys. You guys get an A+. What type of post? When? How often? Exactly. You guys have got this down. Okay. I will reach out to previous consultants about reinstating. Nope, you're right. You are right. You could text 5 previous consultants a day and explain the reinstatement process. All right, I guess. All right, great job. So, hold on, let me go back. Great job. You have a good understanding of how to help your coachee write smart action items. And can you see where a lot of them aren't doing that? They're saying, oh, I need to get better at this, right? This is a step. That is the cutest puppy, Nikki. That is a step to help them with for sure. And you can do that by asking those questions. Now you can use a time-bound part of their action plan to determine when you have another call. So Hannah, how often do you do them? I'm doing them about once a month with people. Some people are a little more regularly, but you can determine the frequency based on the coachee and kind of the conversation, the situation that they're working on. It's totally up to you what the frequency is of your calls. The last thing I want to talk with you about with the action plan is to make sure that your coachee is writing it down. You aren't saying, okay, let me create an action plan for you. And when we're done with this call, I'm going to send it over to you. Okay, it's important that you do not write it for them and send it to them. In fact, it's better if they do it themselves. Now, you might want to say, you know, I know you're writing this up. I'd love for you to send it to me afterwards. That would be another level of accountability. But this is for them to do and not for you to do for them. So it's totally up to you whether you have them send it to you or not. But by them taking the action and actually writing it down, then it's going to even hold them a little more accountable as well. So does anyone have questions about action plans? Nobody?
I'm just going to have to get good at not flipping through my binder when I, because I have to, let me look back at these smart action plans. I love having something in front of me though, and I feel like I'll get more comfortable with it.
It's okay for you to take notes while you're chatting with them. You just don't want to, like, I do take notes so that because I will say, you know, so what I heard you say was, and I want to make sure that I've gotten it all, or I want to be able to prompt them with a follow-up question based on something they've said, if we're stuck. And there's been a lot of dead zone silence, right? Like, or tell me a little more about this or whatever. But so don't feel bad about having the questions in front of you. Don't feel bad about writing things down. Just don't say to them, don't give them the impression that it's your job to put this all into a pretty package and present it to them. Because that would be more mentoring or teaching. You shouldn't leave the session with a list of things for you to do. You should leave the session where they have a list of things for them to do that they've come up with through your questions.
I like it.
You know, and I'll just add to, like, I make notes. I have a coaching call section in my binder, you know, that I'm taking notes from everybody too. But I think one of the things that I have done is making them write down whatever the action plan is that they have. And then before we schedule the next call, they have to send that to me so that I know they have it written down. Either they can text a picture of it from their notebook and send it to me, or they type it out, you know, and send it to me in an email or something. That way I know that we are both on the same wavelength and, you know, what we are moving forward. And I'm not going to move forward with you until we have a plan, and then we'll set the next call up too. So
I like that.
Something that works personally for me.
Yeah.
Yep. Does anyone else have any questions? And some people don't do them on Zoom. Some people do them, you know, in a written, just a phone call, so that it's not obvious. If you have something in front of you, you can flip through whatever you want, you know. And you can flip through it even if you're live with them on FaceTime or Zoom or whatever. So you guys feel pretty confident with the how to get them to the action, you know, creating the plan? Okay. Ooh, what the heck was that? Okay. All right, then I'm gonna pass it on to you, Hannah.
So now that we have a plan, I think that there's a little bit of a misconception out there in the world that makes people believe that preparing for a coaching call takes a lot of time for you. I think that this is only true when you are trying to come up with a plan that you're going to give them to work on. How many of you have gone into a coaching call and thought, okay, now, Sarah wants to talk about recruiting, and so I have a plan of what I think Sarah could do. So that's what I'm talking about. This is taking a lot of your time to come up with that plan. If you, the coach, the way that we have taught you through this workshop, your preparation time should be very simple and very minimal. The purpose of your preparation should be so that you have some idea of what questions you want to ask them. So maybe even having the questions sheet in front of you already. And to be honest, once you get really good at coaching, you won't even need that to prepare because you will just have the questions right at the front of your head just rolling off. But I can tell you right from the beginning, it's always nice to have those questions to the side too. And then all of your work is going to be done on the call, because really going into a coaching call, sometimes you don't even know how it's going to go. And those are sometimes the best calls to have. So if you already have a plan, you're trying to really put that call to how you want it to. So that's not really what we are talking about here. So with that in mind, let's brainstorm ideas around the type of preparation that you or your coachee should do prior to having a coaching call with you. So we're going to work a few minutes in small groups. Yay, you guys love small groups. And to see what you can come up with, okay? So in a moment, we're going to put you into breakout rooms. And here's what I want you to do in your room, okay? And it's right on the PowerPoint. So snap a picture of it if you need to before you leave, or write it down so you don't forget, okay? You're not going to be able to see this when you go in your room. Identify 3 things that you want your coachee to come prepared with to their call. Identify 2 to 3 things that you as a coach can do to prepare for a coaching call. And then when you're all done, you're going to choose a spokesperson from your room to share the ideas that you came up with, okay? And you're going to have 5 minutes for this activity. Any questions?
Okay, I'm going to give you one more second to write them down or take that screenshot, and then I'm going to turn off my screen so that I can put you in rooms. Oh, maybe I don't have to. How many do you think we want in a room? What do you think? 3 or 4?
Let's do 3. I think, do we have 18? Or is that, what do we have, an on-them list? 3 or 4?
Everyone, most rooms will have 3. Just don't go to a room. Oh, let's see. Hold on. You know what? I'm going to assign the rooms.
So remember, you're thinking about ways that you're preparing to come to the coaching call. You ready?
Almost. Now I'm ready. We're sending you to your rooms, you guys.
And did you want to stop the recording? All right, welcome back. Okay, so we want to hear your ideas of what you came up with. So just so you guys know, you have a whole bunch of room to be writing on page 19 for all these ideas that people are going to be sharing with you. So breakout room 1, if you guys remember what rooms you were in, who's your spokesperson? And if you want to unmute and tell us what you guys came up with. Do you want to throw up the questions
Yep,
back up
I
there?
do. Yeah, I was debating whether I would wait until afterwards, but I'll throw it up now. Maybe. Super weird. It's not coming up. Hold on.
While she's doing that, who's our spokesperson for room 1?
See, maybe that's who's dropping off every time.
Maybe it's us. I don't remember what room number we were. Was it us?
Yeah, we were.
Yeah, we were
room
one.
one.
Okay.
Crystal.
Okay, I'm like, I don't remember. Okay, hold on. I'm on my phone, so everything's okay. So we got, for the coachee, they should ask, or they should have a specific area of opportunity or their goals in mind. And then also their past PRV and maybe past numbers. So depending on like if they're talking about, wanting to go on incentive trips, so they have that information handy and ready to go if it's asked. Also things that they could try to get to their goals. So maybe some ideas on what they can do to get to their goals to kind of help the conversation go along. And then for the coach, we have guiding points, current PRV and numbers. So maybe just pull up their name and have access to that, like for that current month. And then have us the smart sheet, the smart steps in front of them so that we can help them set their SMART goals.
Excellent.
Love that. Yep. All right. What about room 2?
I think that was us. So we said for the coachee, what they want to talk about, what their priorities are, positive attitude, open mind and honesty. And for the coach to have an idea of their PRV and where they are at the moment, and to not have any preconceived ideas.
Good. All right. What about 3? Breakout room 3?
Us. Okay, so we talked about the coaching. The 2 that I was with, they both use a coaching form. And so they talked about, they find it important to get that form to them and have the coachee complete the form. And then they like for the completed form to come back to them within 24 hours prior to the call so that they are aware of what's going on and they have a little bit of background. We talked about, and if you've had a previous phone call, having the coachee come back with results from the homework or the actions so that they can tell you what they've done or accomplished, like proof in the pudding. They're showing you. And you as a coach, you need, if you've taken notes, have that previous call, have what the actions or the goals were that you gave them. Because as we coach people, sometimes it's hard for us to remember what we gave each specific person, but that way we can reflect back so we know what they were doing. And then we said that it's important for them to show up 100% open, willing to learn, and coachable. And that us as a coach need to come open-minded, no bias, and meeting them where they are in their business, not expecting less, but not expecting more, but pushing them where they are right there to get them, have high expectations, but understand where they are to help them achieve this.
And I love that you guys are all thinking not just only task oriented, but mind and mindset actions as well.
Yeah.
That's huge, because you don't want someone coming into your coaching call that is closed-minded and that says, I've done all the things, and you're not going to be able to tell me anything I haven't done, right? So you're already setting the standard of be open-minded, be open to new ideas that we may be presenting too. So I love that you guys are all thinking from both aspects of that. All right, breakout room 4. was there a 4?
Was that us? I think it was 5, or it might have been 4.
Go ahead, Sammy. Go ahead.
Okay. So I actually use a coaching call form too that we talked about, and do the 24 hours in advance. But I want them to tell me what their PRV, their TWV, and their GWV were, because I think it's important that they bring that information. Because if I do that work for them, that's just me enabling them a little bit more. So that's what I was trying to stay away from. And the questions that I have on here that we use, that we talked about in our group, is how are you connecting with your frontline and your downline? Because if they're worried about recruiting, that's obviously something we need to flourish on. What is your why, and what motivates you to work and grow your business? And then what are the biggest obstacles you're trying to overcome in your business right now? And those kind of, when I get that back, I can prep instead of advice, like I was mentoring before, I can now come back with a list of questions, and kind of focus and hit on each one and be able to develop that a little bit more. And I also ask what their join date is, so that way they know they know how to get around their workstation to be able to look for their recruits or like their downline as well. So.
Good. I love all of those things. Love it. All right. Is there one more group left?
I think me, but I don't know what my room number was.
That's okay. Go ahead.
I mean, we pretty much have all the same things. The only other thing that was different than what anyone said was to bring a pen and paper to set that expectation that they are to take notes. Otherwise, everything else has pretty much been the same.
Yeah, right?
Yeah,
Be in a mindset too of like where, like I've had people that are in their cars, or they have, running around somewhere. Like, I don't want to have a coaching call with you while you are in Target. Yeah. It's just plain and simple, right? This is my time that we're taking. So making sure that we've set the boundaries as far as this is what coaching calls look like, and I'm giving you my time. I need you to give it back. Right, so those are things you could also add on those even requirements for having coaching calls with you too. So all good things. Just so you guys know, there is no right or wrong way to do this, but the key is to keep it simple. So as a coach, put yourself in the coachee's shoes. Would you want to fill out a form that has several questions on it? Ask yourself, what's the minimum amount of information that I need to have a successful call? What's the simplest way I can have my coachee prepare ahead of time so they can come to the call as comfortable as possible? Excited, ready to talk, right? So there's no right or wrong way to do this. It's really what you feel comfortable with. These have been all great ideas to share. It's really making it personal for you, okay?
No idea what just happened to our PowerPoint. There we go. Sorry. So can I just add one thing? I think we do our coaching a little differently, which I think everyone does coaching a little differently from everyone else, by all means. And as Hannah said, there is no right or wrong way. I actually, years ago, I used a form. In fact, I used a pretty complicated form. I wanted them to give me 3 things that they wanted to discuss, and they had to have it back to me 24 to 48 hours in advance. And that is great for mentoring or training. But for me, that doesn't work for coaching, because it puts me personally, and this isn't a reflection on any of you, this is me, puts me in a mindset of wanting to prepare and wanting to give them ideas and suggestions, and it skews my ability to listen personally. So I don't do that anymore. I also, my questions were so tedious that sometimes they wouldn't respond to it. And to me, it was a way of weeding people out who weren't really serious about their business, but some of the questions really didn't add that much value to me preparing anyway. So I love these set boundaries, set the expectation, get them in the right mental mindset. make sure you're not asking too much information that will challenge you to prepare, because again, most of the preparation should be mental, if anything. And make sure you do set those boundaries. So for example, and I'm totally going off the script right now, but what happens if they call you 10 minutes late? And we'll talk about some of the stuff more next week. But are you going to take their call, or are you going to give them 10 minutes less? I mean, when you're setting the boundaries, there's going to be a fair number of boundaries and expectations you're going to want to set up. So, and so you can stick to the time frame and stick to, all that kind of thing. So, but let's move to homework. Next week, you guys have survived 5 out of 6 weeks. I'm proud of you. Next week, I know, like, give yourselves a big clap, right? And make sure you've gone back and done all the homework. If you've missed a week of homework, make sure you've done it. And I know you have team members or fellow peers who are catching up or who have not done all the recordings or the homework. Give them, remind them, hey, you still have a chance to catch up at this point. So to wrap up, I want to give you your homework. I want you to, between now and next Sunday, decide what information you're going to collect prior to a coaching call and how you're going to collect it. If you're going to use a form and you don't have a form, or if you want to personalize a form that someone else has given you so that it really is a reflection on you, then I want you to create it, okay? If you need help with that, ask on the page. There's a whole bunch of other people on that page there to help you. So ask on the page, ask questions. What are you doing? Will you share what you're doing with me? All that kind of thing. Don't wait till, 7:55 p.m. Eastern time Sunday to ask. You've got all week. And then post your process and a copy of your form, or a link to it in the Facebook group under Unit 5. And I did add the PowerPoint right before we started. So it's there already. We'll put the recording, and then you're going to put the homework, which here, for those of you that want to take a screenshot of it, but it will be in the unit as well. Decide what info you're going to collect prior to the coaching call, how you're going to collect it, if you're going to use a form. Now, you aren't required to collect a lot of information, and you aren't required to use a form. So don't think this is saying you have to create a form. If you don't want to do that, you don't have to. But whatever you're going to do, post it, and a link to it or a copy of it if you are using a form under Unit 5 in our Facebook group. And then you guys will make it to week 6. Yay! And we're gonna talk to you next week about, among other things, how you're going to create kind of your coaching program, how you're going to decide who you're going to coach, when you're going to coach them, how you're going to do all of that. So does anyone have any questions? Nobody has any questions? No? Okay, then have a good night, you guys. Happy Sunday. We'll chat with you guys soon.
Good night.
Stay safe.
Thank you. Good night.